Okay, here I have another tuner. This time it's a Thorn, and it's a model 4035. Somewhere in the 80s. And this one's interesting because not only does it have the old analog tuning dial, but it also has a digital frequency readout. And it seems to have been a thing. There seems to be a few models from different brands that came out somewhere in the 80s, I guess, where they had both. Well, it was like they wanted to leave the old tuning dial on there for people that are used to that, but also move to more modern technology. It's kind of a bit of a weird idea having both. You'd think they'd just be one or the other. You just go from one thing and just completely update it to a new one, which is what you'd think most people would want, but for some reason this seems to have been a bit of an era, so I was glad to actually just get one of these just because they're interesting. And I just collect a few of these old tuners just to sit there with them lit up just in the background of my sort of man cave thing, and it's just nice to have that nice warm light of a few old radios going, even though I don't listen to any of them. They're just all plugged into power boards and lit up. Just a stack, I don't know how many's there now, but there's a few. And there'll be a few more soon once I clean up these other ones I've purchased more recently and haven't got around to looking at. So it will be good to get these up and going.
Security guard was yelling 200 meters away. Was telling us to like push the...
Well, it seems to pick up pretty well. Better than some of these other ones. Ooh, we've jumped, hang on, what's going on here? It went a bit crazy above 92, look at that, it's got a little patch where it, yeah, maybe it's coming right now, but it jumped up to God knows what frequency there for all, well, yes, here we go, a bit of 103 popping through. So I'm not sure how these things work as far as what sets the tuning display. Yeah, there it goes back to 103, 113. Which is more than how many megahertz it should even ever do. So something's a bit odd here. Yeah, it's not, doesn't seem to be picking up. There's a channel down there somewhere. Oh, is that it? Yeah.
Right now, drive a winner only at your local Ford dealer. See Ford.com.au for details. Short delays now on the Brookham Highway, both directions through Lutana, and starting to get heavy outbound through Granton. The Tasman Bridge is slowing outbound, and Saturday Road. Thanks to Marpaters FMOS. It's how thousands of businesses fees.
Not a very bright display though, whether it was meant to be like that. I'm really going in segments of 10 kilohertz by the look of it. So you can't exactly get the station frequency, but I guess there's probably a reason for that. It probably wasn't able to do it. So I assume they got some sort of varactor tuning and that's some sort of potentiometer or something, but I don't think they could have a tuning cap at the same time, but who knows what the hell they've done in these, which is why I was interested, because I don't think I've ever really looked inside one. If I did, I didn't really take a lot of notice, but generally these sort of tuners were super reliable. They weren't something you saw for repair very often. So chances are I'd never have had to pull one to bits and work out how the circuitry works in it. But I think they're a bit of a unique little period where they made these things, and it was just a matter of waiting for one to actually turn up at a decent price, because I didn't really want to spend $80 or something stupid on one. This one's a bit rough admittedly, but well, it does have a tuning capacitor in it. What's this, some bit of tape there? Okay, so does it have a separate, I wonder if it's got a separate little gang there or something that I can't see any sort of potentiometer there. What have we got? Where does the dial go? It looks like it just comes back. There is a secondary little pulley there, but no, I can't see that it actually, unless it is an actual frequency counter that's measuring, well, this is the box with I can see the fluorescent display sticking out of it. Would it actually be measuring like the frequency of the oscillator or something? Or some, yeah, who knows? That's a bit of an odd one. It looks like it's got a shielded cable coming out of in this front end section here. It's also got a couple other pins here and there. So who knows, maybe it is a genuine frequency counter. It's about the only other way I could really see them doing it. I don't know if any of these Hitachi chips that it's got in here have some sort of output especially for that. HA1156, 1137, 1197. But like I say, the bit of cable that comes up here that's most likely carrying the signal is coming out of this little front end section here. So it's more likely coming from there. Although we've got another grey wire here too. Where does that go? That goes to another pair of pins near this other HA chip. It's got quite a few connections. So you've got two shielded cables and another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 I think. Various other wires, including a blue one that comes over here. Probably that white one that goes over there. The purple one? No, I don't think we've got a purple one. I've got two blues, another blue, so that'd be power there, I would guess. An orange wire which comes back to near this other shielded cable, probably with that yellow wire. No, yellow wire goes over near the switch here. So that's probably to tell it to change from AM to FM frequencies like kilohertz to megahertz or something. I guess we'd have to switch. We've got kilohertz and yeah, megahertz. Oh, also an FM and AM light in there. Not that easy to see. But it does go AM, FM and kilohertz, megahertz at the same time. And we didn't get the FM stereo lights hiding up inside this thing too somewhere by the look of it. So that's probably what another one of these wires are, is the 19 kilohertz pilot tone thing, and it's all in a shielded box. I'm tempted to pull that out there and have a look. I don't think I can resist. And see if I can open it up and try and find out what's going on here. And yeah, annoyingly it doesn't look like that radio dial lights up. It's just the frequency display. Oh no, actually there's something. Is that a light? Oh yeah, there is. Okay, I lie. There is one light on the end. Oh, and a light on the other. Oh, so good. That's a relief. But so we've lost our lights. I'm not sure how good this one's going to clean up anyway, but I didn't pay a lot for this one. It was more just to find out what on earth these things are all about. Oh yeah, so we've got like a bit of green perspex there. Very deep green. A good old kind of cash register display green. About the main place they use that. So it is an LED for FM stereo. I don't know, what can I see in there? There is a big chip in there as you'd expect. Not that big though, that's actually not a big chip, that's a small chip. That's only like a 16, 18 pin or something. Does that just it looks like you just unsolder this cover and hopefully it comes off. I guess I might as well try. That's probably how I ended up with a bent soldering iron tip, is doing something like this. Getting enough heat into it's going to be fun. And then trying to prise it. Not sure what I'm going to do there. I guess prise it outwards. So I don't think you'll be able to suck all the solder off. Maybe you can. I doubt it, but I don't know if I don't try. I think we can get a fair bit of the solder off. Damn cable in the way. And that's got that broken free. I guess that's another way, just make it molten and then let it set a bit and then try and fracture it, I guess is a way of doing it. Ah, you son of a... Why do I do these things? Because if you don't open them up, you'll never learn what the hell they're all about, I guess. Not that anyone really cares, but there's something about a bit of obsolete technology that's always interesting to find out about. When you've got a sealed up box like this, you have to know what's inside it. There we go. It's too loose. Oh, it's coming off at this end as well. So that's not even... that's meant to be soldered and it's not very well. Oh, this makes it easier than I was hoping. I can see a crystal in there. No surprises there, but I'm not sure that other chip's any sort of micro or anything. You would assume it would have something like that in it. Who knows, maybe they can use some sort of clock chip, digital clock chip or something. So I've got a 6.5536 crystal and they've got this MSL 2318. Doesn't mean a lot to me. I've still got this issue of why doesn't this LED work. Guess we need to check if it is actually okay. Where is it soldered to those two? So it goes to these two links, comes up and it goes to the blue and white wire at the top. So at least I know that much. Which is, I think these ones coming over here. I assume that one just goes around in a loop. Yep. So that's our pilot light, or should be, coming out of that HA chip. It has no other connection to anything in here. Now what sets our, I wonder if that sets our brightness. Yeah, it's going to a filament. I would assume usually these displays have the filaments on the end. So it looks like our, is it the brown wire? Second one up. What is it, the second one up though? No. The blue doesn't go to that pad, it goes to that one. So it's the blue wire is one end of the filament, this other blue wire, which I assume, hang on. Of course they're tangled up, that goes up to near the power supply here, that line there near the cap. That's one end of our filament, assuming that is the filament, and it looks like this other blue wire. Wasn't that the blue wire I just did? Whoa, what's going on here? The very bottom one is the blue wire. Yep, they're offset to one side. Now the other one goes to this terminal here. Oh, it goes to, that's right, that bit of that track that doesn't go anywhere. Well, how can that work? So a link comes back and it comes back around here to this big pad, so I guess that's just ground, comes out on this, yeah, that black, oh that's the shields of the other two cables I think. So that would set our brightness. I'll just check that is, well, it could be something in that circuit that feeds it. I doubt it's going to be that 120 ohm resistor. Seems a bit dim to me, but not right on 122 ohms. Ooh, someone's bent one of those pins. I don't think I just did that, did I? Yeah, 10 ohms between them is most likely your filament, which I think sits at about 4.4 volts or so, thereabouts. That's these little filament wires. You can see going across the screen, you can see them come to the end bit. So yeah, I can actually see that pin comes up inside here to the little metal bits that have got those wires strung on them. Yeah, and this one too, you can see comes out the other end here. That other pin's nothing to do with it, it's a bit bent. Someone's damaged it at some stage. Hit it with something, probably in the factory or something. But yeah, nothing particularly exciting there. That chip's got like 3 pins soldered to earth by the look of it. A couple there, a couple there. Kind of these dodgy put together resistors and stuff. And what have we got? 2 pins coming in through inductors. One of which goes to the display. Oh, there's the... I was going to say there must be a driver chip for the display. There it is, hiding underneath it. I'm blind. I just realised, well, whatever that does is not going to run the actual segments of the display, but there is a chip there, and I don't fancy it's being glued down onto it by a look at it. Oh, I can just lift it. Oh, and of course the double-sided tape blocks the number. Damn it! I doubt it'd be anything we know anyway, but I can rip a bit of that off, but I don't think, without cleaning the whole chip off, I'm not going to see. Probably be better trying to find a manual for this thing. Ooh, did I just bend that other pin there? Or was that already bent as well? I don't think lifting it up would have twisted it sideways, would it? Oh, I'm going to have to be super careful as long as it doesn't short on the next one. Yeah, now it doesn't want to sit back down, of course. If I bend it slightly that way, it should sit down pretty good. Oh, well, there you go. Now, did that crystal stick out there? Must have. Oh, that's the top cover anyway. That's the bottom. Now you can see where the chip leads have been pressing into that, just so they put some insulation material there. Fairly crudely put together, really. Oh, come on. Be careful it doesn't suddenly snap on and hit the display or something. That display's sitting up a little bit now. Don't think that's going to matter. I can always glue it back down if I need to. Don't think I'll even solder them all back together. They probably don't even need soldering at all, to be honest. I think the metal works well enough pressed together, and especially once you put the screws on it, it's not really much point soldering it at all, I don't think. Now, which one did I say? It's that blue wire to ground, I think, for the filaments. Be interested to measure what voltage they got on them. I think it's just either a not very bright display, or it's worn out, or it's that green perspex is taking half the brightness out of it. But I would have expected them to be brighter than that to start with. The other thing could be the caps. It should have like a 30 volt line to it. As well for all the segments, and I guess I should have measured those while I'm at it, but we should be able to find that coming up to this module anyway. Probably that other, I think there was another wire coming from the power supply there somewhere. I think I'll screw that up too tight, given that it looked like the pins of the chip had been pressing into the insulation there. It's certainly possible some of these capacitors could be a bit iffy. Oh yeah, I was going to say I've got no display. It does come on eventually. It's a bit slow to come on, which is interesting. I wouldn't have thought that one of those should take a while to warm up. I mean, they do have filaments, but they're not that ancient. Don't think I've ever noticed one warm up before. Now this signal meter's the other thing. Is that doing anything? I don't think I noticed it moving before, and it doesn't seem to be. Stereo mode. So no pilot light. Doesn't sound stereo either. No, that's not actually decoding in stereo. Maybe it's just that signal, but normally that channel will come stereo, so I can't hear the stereo open up on that. So that's why I've got no pilot light. And I was going to check, what have we got? What voltage? It is a DC voltage, I think, normally coming out of there. -8. So it's higher than a normal filament, but whether it was, I'm sure it was coming back. Well, let's measure it to those. Maybe it's not the case ground. Still minus nearly 9 volts. Seems a bit excessive. But maybe that's this particular display or something. And the other thing I was going to check is there a, that's our -8 I think, yeah. Is there 30 odd volts coming up here somewhere? We've got 9 volts on the red wire, surprisingly nothing on most of them. Well, you'd think you'd have more voltages than that. Come on, where are you? There's a 13 volt. That might be our issue too. And a 10 volt DC, wasn't that the pilot light, that one? Yeah, we've got 12 volts and 12 volts for the pilot light, so obviously it's got 12 volts coming up one side, but it's not being switched by that chip back to ground on the other side, I guess. So that was the orange wire, was it? No. White wire here. Yet another white wire. Oh, that's the one going back to what? Oh yeah, that's the 13 volts, so they're both the pilot light. Okay, so we've got 2 for the pilot light and they're both 13 volts. That's right, they're at one end. We've got 1.3 volts. Now for all ground. So with A, 10 volts. Nothing. 5 volts. And -8. Well, that doesn't seem right. 10 volts. That's on that red wire. That's the one that goes all the way back to the tuner area anyway. Surely there's a... Where does this display get its voltage from? Six volts there. Volts there, that just doesn't seem. We've got a wire here, 5 volts, which makes sense. We'd have a 5 volt for the chip. And 14 volts there. That seems a bit weird to me. Where's our bridge rectifier coming out at? Doesn't seem to be anything. Really? I wonder if this ground really is ground, but one would assume that's the other part that's ground. I should be getting something out of the bridge rectifier. I didn't turn this thing off by accident, did I? Oh, now we've got -17 volts, so maybe that isn't a good ground. It's the only voltage I can find. Okay, let's go to that ground and recheck everything. Don't think it's going to make any difference, but because if we had our 5 volts, 13, 12, it's the same for the pilot light. -8, no, it's exactly the same, 5 volts. I'm just going to check that pilot light. There is a slight voltage difference there, but yes, no, it's not really. So we're not getting what I was expecting in voltages to power that display. That should have some, unless there's a voltage, I didn't notice like an oscillator or anything, the voltage booster on there, but maybe there was. Should have took more notice, I guess. And we got the issue of the damn pilot light stereo.
station.
It's the Pulse.
Pulse
News.
Hello, I'm Sarah. It's still uncertain about Prime Minister Anthony Albanese at the NATO summit in Lithuania. More from Actor Silva.
Australia, New Zealand.
Well, at least this thing has access to under the board because you can't get it out without messing up the dial cord otherwise. Only a pretty horrible bit of masonite, but I guess it's better than nothing. A bit of corrosion on it, that's for sure. It's seen better days. Ugh. Never good when it makes that sound when you pull it off. Okay, so I've got a couple of issues. No stereo FM. Not the world's best soldering I've ever seen, or I think this is made in Taiwan or something. If I look at this here, made in Taiwan, you can tell by the soldering. Is it just a scratch on the board or an actual crack in the board? Yeah, it's certainly been a bit roughly put together, this thing, I think. Don't think that's a break in the board though. I think it's just a scrape through the... There's a bit of a scratch in the copper as well, but no, I don't think that's broken. Yeah, she's a bit of a mess. Pins bent over here and there. I guess it was probably hand assembled back then. But I was thinking I might check a few of these capacitors around the power section. I wouldn't actually mind seeing what voltage was on a few of them. Because there must be some higher voltages around here somewhere. So it looks like we've got about, I did find a 17 volts before on one of the bridge diode, so that's more likely to expect the display to be running off. 17 volts, and I think that's one of those transistors. That's putting out about 14 volts, and the other one should be the 5 volt regulator. Yeah, 5.75, 8.9. That's coming off that 8.9 rail we were seeing. But nothing seems to go to that tuner, unless it is using that 12 volts off that. Maybe that pilot light is also supplying a voltage up there. That's the 17 volts. It's got a couple of somethings there. Oh, that's the diodes. We've got the capacitor. Now it looks like pretty much everything off it goes through, potentially through that transistor. It's only a resistor there, so yeah, it must do. So it must all be regulated down to about 14 volts. To check some of these caps just out of interest. Probably won't be anything wrong with them, but won't know if we don't check. Yeah, I should have took a bit more notice at display and how it was set up. That one's fine. 0.85, that would be about 1,000 mic or something. That one, that's the big one, and there's two little ones. Where? Is it that thing? Or is it those things? 0.17, 0.19, that must be them, I think. That's the two other ones. Yeah, then there's a little one up that corner, which is that one, I think. 2.3, still pretty low even for a little one. And another one near that transistor, that would be that. 3, it's not that bad. So yeah, no, that's nothing of interest. There's another one. That's the diode, so it must be one of these. 0.3. Yeah, with the 2 diodes next to it, and then one more up here. That was that 17 volt rail, I think, 0.13, so they're all fine by the look of it. Might resolder a couple of joints around there while I'm in the neighbourhood. Yeah, that one wasn't real great. Yeah, they don't look the prettiest, but they do seem to work reasonably well, these solder joints. They're not dry at all, I don't think, even though they look a bit scarce or scant in the amount of solder on them. Where's our pilot light? I think that's this thing here. Looks like it comes through that resistor. But again, it's not going to give us a pilot light if we've got no stereo, and I can't hear the thing going to stereo, so can't really blame it on the pilot light circuit. But why the FM decoder isn't working, that wasn't a very good joint. Oh, these are those couple of filters, ceramic filters. These are the FM channels there, I think. Had some black mark on it, but only a bit of flux, I think. I don't think I'm going to randomly fix it by resoldering something, but you never know. So this must be the 2 FM, I think that must be the IF frequencies, isn't it? Goes through those ceramic filters. One goes into that pin of this chip. Oh, they're in series. So that's not the 2 channels then. I thought they normally had one for each channel. Although no, FM's not like that, I don't think. I'm thinking of TV IF, sound IF. Well, that's technically FM as well, I think. Ooh, that joint doesn't look very good. That wasn't soldered on much at all. But it was probably soldered on enough to work. I'll just go over those anyway. Look, so while I'm here looking at them, right up at that bottom. Oh yes, I've got the old foil attached, but make sure that can't short on the circuit board anyway. So I almost need to know what sort of chip it does use in that tuner, that frequency display. Muting it off. Oh, now we've got nothing. Oh, if I turn the volume down. As long as that. No, that made 0 difference. Oh, and we also got that signal meter. Now, is it just a faulty meter, or is that part of the same issue? Yeah, no voltage. I thought I made a decent contact to it, but no voltage going to that meter by the look of it. There is the slightest change of voltage for from 0 to slightly above 0. Now I guess we've got to check we've got some sort of resistance across that meter. 500 on ohms, so we've got a black and a green wire. So if I come back over here to near this switch, I guess we can go volts DC to this thing and see if there's anything on either leg. Like, is it above ground to some degree? Yeah, they both got 5.39 volts on them. I shouldn't have put that cover back on, should I? Idiot. Which is what you'd expect, since the meter's just a coil of wire. If it's got a voltage on one side and nothing doing anything, it should have the voltage on the other side as well. It's just like a light lobe filament or anything else. If there's a fault on one side but it's got a voltage on the other side, it will just run that voltage through, so that's pretty simple. That's why I thought I'd check it to ground as well. So we have green and thingo come into here. I wonder if that switch is worth giving a clean to. Then they could go off anywhere, who knows. May go back to that switch for the pilot light or something. I'm going to give that a squirt of contact cleaner just for the bloody hell of it. Because if anything's going to be playing up, and given this thing's in pretty corroded kind of condition, come on. It's no difference, not surprising. Worth a try though. Sometimes you gotta just do the silly things. Definitely don't want 30 volts. Just drop that right down low and let the power off. I just want to see if that meter will, if I can connect to it, deflect. No, it doesn't. Are we actually on? That meter doesn't seem to do anything. Now I've got to check my power supply actually is putting out a voltage. Because it wouldn't be the first time one of these leads had dropped out or something, but that's got 3 volts on it and that meter isn't doing a thing. 400 ohms, maybe it needs a bit more, but I doubt it. That should jump all over the place at any voltage. So I'm suspecting that meter may still be shot anyway, because they were known for dying these mechanical things. Now how do I get this silly bracket out of here? Well, that's a new one on me. So they've got a tensioned bracket. I guess it should slide sideways, shouldn't it? If you get one side loose, oh, you just bend it down and slide sideways. There you go. Couldn't do it with my fingers. Oh, the meter's already fallen to bits. Oh, you look at that. It stays wherever you put it. So it probably has got some sort of, maybe it's just a little bit of current going through it. And I was measuring, I could see something slightly varying. Now, how do we fix that? All the orange paint's falling off the pointer. But why is it stiff in there? Does it just need a bit of oil or something? Well, I probably shouldn't do this, but a little bit of RP7. Normally I wouldn't recommend stuff like this, but I'm not really that fussed about this meter. Just want a little squirt of that on there. On the little pivot point, but it doesn't seem to do anything. Is the spring still intact? I think it is, or is it? Yeah, the spring winds up as the needle goes across. It just doesn't have enough strength to pull it back again. We've probably got another little lubrication point down in here. I mean, I haven't really got much to lose with this since it's just a piece of junk at the moment. I think it's getting a little looser, to be honest, but ooh, seems to be springing back to the wrong point. I'll just need to lift that needle up a bit, because if it's touching on the plastic, it's just bent the crap out of it. Not the intended idea. No, it felt like it sprung back then, but it's not springing back, and I've bent the hell out of it now, so it's basically a piece of junk now. So there must be something down in there's corroded, or that's its natural state of rest. So that meter, I think, is basically kaput. I guess I could put it right down and see. Move it all. So this thing's looking like a bit of a lemon. We've got no FM stereo, a dim display, a knackered signal meter, but I'd prefer that at least sits on 0, like it's pretending that it's not completely stuffed. So I need to put that right through. Yeah. And bend it, shove it under that last bit. Quite a simple design. And I've got 2 blown light bulbs, but I only want this for display purposes anyway. I prefer that signal at least is sitting at 0. The front needs a good clean. It's got scratches. It's not, yeah, it's a bit rough up there, but at least the front is not so bad. That'll probably polish off some of it. No idea. I guess the next thing is to measure the voltage on these. Shut that up. On these lamps. Whether it be via the regulator or whether it's just AC before. Most likely they usually put them via AC, otherwise you've got to regulate the voltage. So they're actually about 8 volt, that'd be right. It's possible that's 6 volt once it's loaded up, but I doubt there's a resistor anywhere. I think there was an 8 volt out of a rectifier to... That was one of the rails, I think the one they chopped down to be 5 volts. So we can at least look at that. I think I did get some 8 volt axial lamps. Which would be good if I have. And yeah, they're pretty much your standard little axial light globe there. Not your fuse holder fitting ones, but basically what they put inside the fuse holder ones now. They've actually fitted one of these, not quite as big as that one, but they now come with an axial lamp stuck inside the fuse holder, whereas they used to be a proper sealed glass piece with a filament inside it. Now they just obviously use a standard fuse case and put a already sealed lamp in, which probably makes a lot of sense, because it wouldn't be worth setting up a production line for both sorts and being able to hermetically seal them and stuff. Yeah, we've got light. Guess I should check the voltage, but at least if these are 9 volts, they're slightly higher voltage than what I was measuring anyway, which is even better. I thought they still sold them as a 8 volt one, but I guess a 9 is good enough. That doesn't actually do much. Ron, you wouldn't know that. Ah, yes, we do have a lit up, it even goes right the way across. Oh yeah, you can probably just see that lit up there, so that's pretty cool. I'll have to do the other one. Okay, got the lights in here all lit up, and the FM lights on, because I just tweaked this little pot in here and now I can't seem to get rid of it, but I thought I'll give a couple of these trim pots just the slightest tweak to see if that has anything to do with it, but we seem to have FM kicked in now. Unless it was just coincidence, but yeah, no, if I turn that back, no FM, and you can hear the stereo hasn't kicked in. As soon as I turn it there, yeah, FM stereo kicks up. I thought it's probably just something's drifted a bit out of value somewhere. So the only thing not working is that signal meter, which is well and truly stuffed. So unless I can find another tuner with one of those in it, I can't do much about it anyway. But yeah, well, at least we've got working stereo again. Yeah, coming up on the other channel. Admittedly, it doesn't pick up perfectly, it's a bit noisy. That's not too bad, it does work, but yeah, so I just tweaked that. I thought, well, that's around that area. I'll give that pot a tweak first. I think this other bit might be the AM section or something. And yeah, I reckon both those chips are your FM. So there you go. Even though it's a bit of a old unit and not that well built, it's still basically all working after all these years with a couple of new light globes in it. Display's rather dim. I don't think there's much I can do about that. Whether it was meant to be that dim to start with, I don't know, or whether it's faded away. I was thinking of checking whether what sort of voltage is meant to go to that chip, but all the caps measure fine, all the rails seem alright, so it must run on a lower voltage, that one. But definitely an interesting bit of kit. I'll give the front panel a clean up. But yeah, it's got both the light up dial and the frequency indicator. I still don't know exactly how that frequency indicator is working, but it probably is running off the oscillator or something. Or is the oscillator fixed? I can't remember how my radio theory anymore. I think the oscillator varies in frequency. The IF is the bit that's fixed, and you've got the incoming frequency plus the oscillator, local oscillator, which may well be fixed as well. I can't remember. No, it must be variable, I guess, because it's got to come up with a difference between the oscillator and the incoming frequency, the tune station, and always keep that difference equal, whatever the fixed IF frequency is. I don't know if these are 455 kilohertz, one of them is. That might be AM radio. I can't remember with FM now. Been a long time since I've needed to know any of that, or I never really needed to know it. You get to learn it, but not something you normally use, because you're rarely measuring those sort of things in this type of equipment. But anyway, I'll give that a clean up, and that can go on my pile of tuners to sit there and just look pretty, and that's about all I'm going to do with that. Hopefully it'll clean up fairly well. Might even be worth having a look at some of the cleaning up, see if we can polish some of this mess off. Is that plastic? I think that's plastic there, so it's got plastic paint on it, so that's going to be interesting to see if that comes up. So I might even film a little bit of that just to see. But at least I'll put the bottom cover back on this now. And yeah, just chuck it on the tuner pile out of the way. Thanks for watching.